Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So it's Thursday, which usually means Tier 1 Thursday, but we're kind of in this weird spot. Amonkhet just released, and we really don't know what the tier decks of the format are. So instead of looking at a tier deck, we're going to look at a super sweet zombie list. This is Dredge Zombies. Recently took Tackett Tapper to a 5-0 finish on Magic Online, so congrats to Tackett on their finish with the deck. So a quick reminder before we break down Dredge Zombies, if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So there's an interesting reason why I wanted to feature this deck, and the reason is, earlier this week for our budget Magic, we played Mono Black Tribal Zombies, which I really love and was really good and we were really successful with, and I think is a really solid deck. But one of the things I mentioned is the upside of playing zombies and building the zombie deck for standard is you can go a lot of different ways. So if you build mono black zombies and get sick of it, you can build blue black dredge zombies or build white black aristocrat zombies, and the decks will feel really different. So this is one of those decks. This is an example of how, for a small amount of money, you could take the mono black zombie deck, make some changes, and end up with what feels like a brand new deck. So you won't get bored playing it at your FNM or on Magic Online or wherever you're doing it. So let's talk about the Dredge zombie deck. First off, instead of being about curve and lords, this deck is more about getting things in the graveyard, getting them back from the graveyard, and grinding out a ton of value that way. So first up, we have our discard outlets, and these cards are really important because they help us get our cards in the graveyard. So Crypt Breaker kind of does it all. In this deck, it's most important as a 2-mana discard outlet. They put something on the battlefield. Although the card advantage of tapping 3 zombies to draw a card is definitely an upside, Sinister Concoction's removal spell that lets you discard a card to get it in the graveyard, and then Haunted Dead is a little weird. It is a discard outlet and one of the most powerful engine-y discard outlets in the entire deck, but it can't be your first discard outlet unless you're going to do something weird like not play stuff and discard to hand size. So you need one of the first 2 discard outlets, Crypt Breaker or Sinister Concoction, and then Haunted Dead can be your discard outlet from the graveyard, which generates a ton of value. So step 1, start discarding cards. What are we looking to discard? And here we got a few options. Scrap Heap Scrounger and Prized Amalgam, kind of already known. This package has been played in decks for a while now. They weren't that popular during the rise of Felidar decks because this deck takes a while to win, and this is really hard to deal with, and that's kind of the upside of this deck. You're not usually going to win quickly, but you have an incredible amount of resilience over the long game because your threats just keep coming back and keep coming back. Your opponent wraths, they come back, they kill your stuff, it comes back. So hard to deal with these cards permanently, but if your opponent can just combo you off on turn 4, it doesn't really matter. Good news is that's gone, so there's potential now of grinding out victories this way. The new addition here is Dreadwander, which is super sweet. It triggers Prized Amalgam. We need to be down to 1 or less cards in hand, but that's not that hard because we discard 2 cards to our Haunted Dead, we have our other discard outlets, and then we're just getting back a Dreadwander, which gets back our Prized Amalgam. Scrap Heap Scrounger can eat something random that we milled, like a Crypt Breaker, to get that back as well. So we just have all these threats that keep coming back from the graveyard really cheaply, and eventually, over the course of time, wearing down our opponent's resources to win the game. The big payoff finisher is Voldaren Pariah. It has Madness, and that's kind of what we're going for. Eventually, we're going to have 5 black mana on the battlefield. All of our lands tap for black, so we're going to discard a Voldaren Pariah to a Haunted Dead, get back the Haunted Dead, get the Spirit Token, get a Voldaren Pariah. Then we can sacrifice the Haunted Dead, the Spirit Token, maybe it doesn't matter, Dreadwander, Scrap Heap Scrounger, some other recursive threat. Flip the Voldaren Pariah, essentially wrath our opponent's board, and have a 6/5 fire left over to close out the game. If our opponent can deal with that, we just do it again. We'll find another Voldaren Pariah, we'll get back the Haunted Dead, discard it, Madness it. So this is kind of how the game actually ends a lot of the time. And it gives us a threat that's big, it's in the air, so we're not reliant on getting in with our prized amalgams a million times, and we have a faster way to close out the game. The rest of the main deck, Relentless Dad, kind of a one-of hedge. Little weird in this deck because we're not that zombie focused. It can get back Crypt Breaker, can get back Dread Wanderer, and it does trigger prized amalgam if we get another zombie back from the graveyard. So we do have some synergies there, although it's not as great in the deck, I don't think, as like Zombie Tribal. Grasp of Darkness and Dark Salvation for removal. Grasp just very efficient, kills a lot of stuff in the early game. Dark Salvation super expensive, but if the game goes really long because you are blocking with your Relentless Dads and your prized amalgams and getting them back and just stalling out the game, eventually you cast this for like 11 mana or something, get a whole board full of zombies, kill your opponent's biggest thing, and just take over the game that way. Mana base, bunch of blue, black, dual lands, and then all swamps. We don't really have blue cards in the main deck except for prized amalgam, and we don't really want to cast prized amalgam. We would much rather be getting it back for free from the graveyard, but we do have some blue stuff in the sideboard, so having the blue lands is important. As far as the sideboard, we get a bunch of removal and Fatal Push and Never to Return. So Fatal Push, early game, Heart of Kirin, Mardu vehicle threats. Never to Return, kind of a ruinous path, but it works really well in this deck because if we randomly discard it to a Haunted Dead or something, we can still get some value out of it in the late game. Obnixilis gives us a do-it-all black Planeswalker, card advantage, killing things. Ultimate does win the game if you get there. A Scumble to Temptation for a bit more card draw. Then our blue cards, Negate and Dispel, give us ways to disrupt our opponent, force our stuff through counters, and Compelling Deterrence, kind of a weird one, but if you really need to bounce something, it gets the job done. Key to the City gives us a backup discard outlet, very good if the match is going to go long, we discard our stuff, we loot and draw more prized amalgams and more stuff to get back from the graveyard, so it's kind of an engine in and of itself. Would almost like to see it in the main deck. I think it's very strong in this archetype, and that is Dredge Zombies for Amonkhet Standard. And that's our instant deck tech for today, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.